Hi, this is Charlie with Beach Gold Assay back again. Today we're going to take a look at a 1903 S Morgan silver dollar. You can see this is a 1903 clearly. You can look at the back of the coin, the S right there for San Francisco. Now this is a low mintage coin. It has a mintage of approximately 1.24 million. So it's one of the more sought after key dates. It's not the most rare coin or anything like that, but that's really not the most interesting thing about this coin. What is interesting is that this coin is completely fake. This is not a real specimen, and I'm going to outline all the ways that you can tell that it's not fake, because honestly this one is a better fake than others that you see out there, and I'll show you why. Okay, starting out, most people would check the weight first of the coin, and this is one of the key things that I suggest to everybody that's getting into silver do, whether it's bullion coins. Make sure that the weights are appropriate, and I'll show you that on this particular 1903 that it's kind of close to where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 26.7 grams total weight. And you might look at that and you might say, okay, well, that's in range. Maybe it's slightly heavier because if anything, it's by 0.09 grams. But typically, you will see that most Morgan dollars that have been circulated would have lost a little weight and not gained it. So now I say that this is one of the better fakes because if you look at some of the other fakes, and I even outlined a fake peace dollar in one of my other videos, that the weights are way off. So that's the reason I'm outlining this, because the weight is actually pretty close here, and it's kind of a really scary because you might be weighing 2 or 3 of these at a time. But yeah, if the weight is this close, you may be be okay with it. Basically, you may think that just because based on the weight that it's a real coin. And with that said, with the weight, if you're considering, if you're actually collecting coins, and if you're not necessarily a silver investor, but you're doing, collecting coins, looking for key dates, that's when checking the weight is super important. And if the weight is ever over, it should be a little bit of a red flag, and you should really look at it closely, because in this case, since a dealer is likely going to pay way over the spot value of silver, at least they should for this coin if it's legitimate, the weight is very important. So among other things that you want to do, you want to check the weight and make sure that it's 26.7 grams. Maybe a slight over is okay. I don't, it's kind of hard to say. 0.09 grams is actually very slight. So, but if anything, it should just be, something that should put a little red flag out there that you should take a closer look at the coin. Typically, we see them at 26.6, 26.5. It really worn coins down to like 25 grams and things like that. But seeing them over, that should always be somewhat of a red flag. So a couple things I want to point out is that one of the bad fakes that we've seen, which is like the peace dollar that's magnetic and weighs a third less than it's supposed to. This one has the weight that's pretty close, and then you look at and it's not magnetic at all. There is zero magnetism whatsoever in this coin, and so that's the first thing that you probably check as well if you're looking at the actual magnetic qualities of the metal. You'll see that it's not magnetic, and you think that that's a good thing. Okay, and looking at these two, the fake 1903 S is on the right side, right here, and I do have a legitimate 1888. I don't even know the mint mark on it. It's an 1888 Morgan dollar. Doesn't look like it has mint mark, so it's a Philadelphia coin. But just for the purposes of the video, I want to show you that the colors, they look similar. All of the coins, depending on how much they were circulated or how they've been handled, they'll have different levels of tarnishing, and looking very closely at the coins, it's not really that bad based on how it just looks. Now I think what's happened is that on the 1903 they have taken steps to make it look older than it is, because clearly it's not that old of a coin. It's not nearly 115 years old like they want you to think it is, because it's been falsified. But just something to think about. If you're looking at it, you'll see that it looks like a very worn coin, and so the pure way that it looks makes you think that, well, it does look like an older coin. Okay, now if we look at some of the other measurements on the coin, if we look at the edge, the reeds actually look okay, but it's a very subtle difference, and I think the camera is capturing it. But this coin, the fake coin, the 1903, is actually a little bit thicker. And if we were to measure that thickness, if we look at the calipers right here, we'll see that we're at about 3 millimeters, 3.02 millimeters on the thickness of the fake coin. And you look at this, and we're definitely thinner at 2.8, which is where it's supposed to be. And the reason why we point this out is that it should help you to know that there are ways of weeding out bad coins. And this is one of the when we had somebody bring this into the shop, this is how we determined that the coin was not real, because of the thickness level of the coin. And again, looking at it directly on camera, you can see your eye can really actually pull out the 0.2 millimeter difference. That you should be able to see it right there. The reeds look okay, but if you look, there's too much metal on the top and the bottom of the reeds, whereas the reeds on the legitimate coin on the left actually are really just the whole width of the wafer. So that was probably the biggest telltale sign of this coin being fake. But here are a couple other things that you can check and take a look at. One of the things that you can also look at is the actual diameter of the coin. And if we look at that on this coin, we'll see that the diameter, hold on, the diameter of the coin is 37.8, and it's supposed to be 38.1. And so we'll take a look at the other one, the real coin right here, and you'll see that the diameter is slightly smaller as well on the fake coin. And this 0.09 millimeters could just be attributed to the wear of the coin, but if you're looking at the actual all of the metrics, you'll see that you'll start to build a case that, hey, this thing's starting to have some red flags on it. Now, even this measurement though, at 37.9, that's still pretty close. Again, that might be, by itself may not raise a red flag, but again, it's really comes down to the thickness of this thing being almost just over 3 millimeters. And that's really what is going to be the red flag on this piece. Okay, one of the things I've talked about before as well is the ring test. And this is a really good example of how different the ring can be. When we had the person come into our store, they did actually bring us multiple coins that were the potential falsified that they'd gotten off eBay. And again, the person came into the store looking for verification. They weren't trying to sell, they just wanted to make sure that the coins were indeed fake, just so they could get their money back on eBay and all that kind of good stuff. So if we look at the actual ring test, and this is done, there's multiple ways of doing it, but if you just hold them on the tips of your fingers like this, and then gently touch them like this, and you can hear the ring, you'll see that that's a very high pitch ring. I think the camera's probably picking that up okay. But you take two good Morgans, and these are the true legitimate 90% silver coins, and then do the ring test. You see that? See how different the ring test is? That's a very, very good way to tell a good coin versus a bad coin. And that's one of the things that you want to be a little bit more used to before you start, using that as one of your main verifiers. But that is definitely, oops, sorry. That's definitely a way to tell or help you build the case that the coin is real versus being fake. And when we were looking at this coin to try to help our customer verify that the coin was fake, we did one last test. The silver acid test, and this is really what, you know, put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, as to saying that yes, the coin is definitely not real. And first of all, I just want to say that we do not test coins that come in. We wanted to have concrete evidence that it was not a silver coin, and that's why we went ahead and did this test. Again, we would never do this, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to be showing you the positive result with just a regular old 1964 Washington quarter, which is just traded for silver values, versus the excuse me, versus the fake 1903 S coin. So if we look at we'll make a couple of marks. I've done other tests before. We'll say, you just have to follow along. I know my stone has quite a few other marks. It's kind of a very used stone. So this is the 1903 right up here, and then this one will be made with the good silver coin. And I want to get a good rub just so we can really clearly show this. And look at that. You don't even really need the acid to tell, because you can see that the very different colors off of those marks. I'm estimating that this is a very high copper content. It's got to be mixed with other things, because even though the dimensions are relatively close, if it was pure copper, it'd be much larger. So it's got to be mixed with other stuff that's not magnetic. And if we look here, we'll put the acid right here, then right here, just for the sake of the video. And we just simply, and I'll come back with some, I gotta grab my paper towel, I'll be right back. Okay. So if you look at the one on the right, you'll see that the color is already very different. When we do our wipe, we look at it, we see there's no red there, just yellow with the black, indicating other metals that are present. And we go ahead and do the test with the known good. We'll take a look. We'll see how bright red that is. And so that's telling us it's a real silver coin. So yeah, when we did that, we were sure 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt, even though the dimensions probably would have done the same thing. But we knew that there was no silver present. It could not be a real coin. And then one of the last things I'm going to show you is what the Sigma does with this type of coin, to show you that it's also helpful in this scenario. If you are more new, if you have the money to invest into a Sigma, I'll just want to show you what the results would be like. Okay, got the Sigma verifier out here. We're going to go ahead and set it to the correct metal type, and we're going to be looking at the 90% US coinage. If we look at this is the good coin. I wanted to show what this actually does. When we put it on the verifier, and if we look there, we see that the two arrows go into the green, indicating that it's a good coin, and that these two numbers, the surface and the through, are within 0.1 of each other, and that's the sign of a good test. So that's how we would say that yes, that truly is a good silver coin. And now if we put this on with the bad coin, this is the 1903 S that we know is not real, you can see that it just pegs off to the right, clearly telling you that it's not a good coin. And what's actually interesting is that even though when we did the rub, you saw how yellow the metal was, indicating like bronze or brass or some other kind of mix, that the surface and the all the way through on the coin is the same. So there's very little to any silver plating present, but yeah, this is a way to completely tell you that this is definitely not a good coin. Alright, so just one last look. This is the fake 1903 S. Just a couple final thoughts on this. So, this coin was something that was available for purchase on eBay, and they happened to have it set up to where there was a lot of them available. So if you're doing any kind of shopping on eBay, then that should kind of be a red flag, because there's very few of these coins, and if they're being sold at very low prices, or maybe at silver rates versus what the coin should be going for, considering its low mintage, that is a something that you should have in the back of your head, that this probably is not a legitimate seller. So when you see somebody trying to sell that many of a particularly rare coin, that's a red flag. And then if you just use the tools that are available to you, you have the calipers that are not expensive, that will help you really nail down the other dimensions of the coin, and that was probably one of the easiest ways to verify that it was not a legitimate coin. And then the ring test, which is very helpful, and then ultimately, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you'd use the acid test to actually prove there's no silver present. And then if you got the sigma available to you, that's another way to completely rule out the coin as being legitimate. Hey, this is Charlie with Beach Gold Assay. I appreciate you watching. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe, share, and we'll continue to try to get content like this, because I find it interesting. It would have been very helpful to me in the early days as well, and I hope that you find it interesting as well. And y'all have a great day. Thank you. Bye.